Hello, my name is Ortez, and welcome back to Insure Your Success Podcast, where we have real conversations about the journey of entrepreneurship. And today, I got a very special guest. I got a man who I consider one of my mentors. He's a God-fearing man. He's a husband. He's a father. He's an author. He's a motivational speaker. He's a man that'll give you his all and a man that will give you his last. I consider him a friend as well as a mentor. He's been very pivotal in my business. And I like to introduce no other than my brother, Mr. BrandonClay. Welcome to Insure Your Success Podcast.
No, Ortez, awesome to be here. Excited. I'm the one that reached out to you and said, when can I get on this podcast? I keep seeing all that content you're putting out. So it's really, really great to be here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate you, man, because I know you're busy in doing what you're doing. And I want to say this, man. I truly want to say this. He's the reason why, or your book, I should say, is the reason why I got into the Medicare business. For those who may know me, I started out in the life insurance business. And a good friend of mine, Sam Gross, and Rosetta Davis, because she'll get me if I say Walker, but Davis was on me about getting into Medicare. And it was business colleagues of mine in the life insurance space. And one day Sam bought me your book, 6 Hours of Six Figures. And I had the book somewhere around here. Oh, it's behind me. 6 Hours to Six Figures here. This book right here is what convinced me to get into the Medicare business, man. And I could say when me, Sam, and Rosetta got together to form ORS LLC. And by the way, y'all can go check us out, ORSFinancialGroup.com. When we adopted this philosophy, about 4 years ago, we've been business partners about 4 years ago, when we were sitting down with our bookkeeper and accountant about 2 weeks ago, and they told us how much money we made, and we really didn't know our agency cleared in gross revenue of $916,000.
Wow.
And you played a big part, my brother, in that. So just shy of $1 million. And so we're excited. And so we're excited for what 2026 has to come. But this book, 6 Hours to Six Figures here, played a big role. And not only that, he got a new one, 6 Hours to Six Figures, becoming a senior marketing advisor in the new digital age. So make sure y'all go out on Amazon and get the book. These two books right here, because it truly was a game changer for us in our business and putting us on track to $1 million and eventually a multi-million-dollar agency. So I want to salute you for that, man, and I appreciate that. So what I want to do is, man, I want to start off, Kira, is ask you, give us a quick introduction of who you are and what you do today. Just a quick introduction.
Yeah, BrandonClay, even as you allude to the books here. So I consider myself a storyteller, a strategist, and a coach. Been in the Medicare health space, specifically insurance, for just at 32 years as of the 2026 season. Today, I'm actually Chief Brand and Industry Officer for a technology platform called EnrollHere, which I believe becomes the next phase of what 6 Hours to Six Figures started doing when I originally wrote it back in 2011. And at some point, hopefully here in this discussion, we can talk about how we became friends, colleagues, and even, as you said, mentor, because it didn't start out quite that way. At the same time, what I love about what you said earlier is that adoption and adaption, and those two words are slightly nuanced and different, but it's helped you accelerate and magnify your success. Because that's the one thing I would have said about you right from the onset, is that you were very strategically minded. ready to dig holes and roll up your sleeves and work hard. But then once you had the right systems, those things in place would help you accelerate. And so I've spent those 30 some odd plus years trying to help people in all levels of business, whether it's the individual agent or agencies like ORS, to take what the landscape is providing by way of opportunity and maximizing it. And Ortez, you have done that as well as anybody I've ever met. So again, that makes me really excited to be here.
Okay. Awesome. So let's talk about back 30 years. Let's go back 30 years. Kind of share with us, how did you get into this industry? Because most people, they don't grow up saying, I want to be in the insurance business. We kind of stumble into it. Somebody present the opportunity to us. But let's go back 30 years and let's talk about, how did you wind up getting into this this awesome industry?
Well, you'll hear some of the storytelling come out, but for me, and you mentioned the inspirational piece, and a young new agent who's in college was just in your office, and to me, that's the excitement. Is that was probably, I was maybe a decade older than him, maybe 29, 30. And I love origin stories. It kind of reminds me of the superheroes, and mine was a bit of a road less traveled. But yeah, it had come from some struggle. And it's funny, I always used to say to my wife, Natalie, we've been married 39 years tomorrow. As a matter of fact.
Congratulations.
Yeah,
congratulations. Happy anniversary.
Well, thank you there. And it's her that probably needs the hand clap, but I got lucky. But I was going to lay gold at her feet. And in that period of our lives, it was more like mud between her toes. It was really rough. We were struggling. And I got a job doing claims work at a company that did claims for General Motors. And September of 2006, I saw a posting. United Healthcare had just purchased the company that I was doing claims with, and it said Medicare agent needed. And I was not currently licensed, but I had been licensed previously, because I work with Primerica and a few other things, selling life insurance like you were talking about, but didn't work out. And that's when I got introduced to Medicare. And I knew from jump that it was going to be the game-changing opportunity. That was 1996. And so many things have happened since then. But from an origin into this business, it was me laboring and learning about Medicare through processing over 2 million claims, sitting in a chair, thinking I can't be stuck here for the rest of my life. The window of opportunity opened in Ortez. I ran through it. And from there, things happened very quickly.
Awesome. So let's talk about some of the struggles, because I think that's important. A lot of podcasts that I listen to, often people talk about the end of the story when people are successful, right? But I believe what makes an entrepreneur is the struggles that you go to. That's what builds an entrepreneur. So share with us a little bit about the struggle. You don't got to go into details, but share with us a little bit about those struggles. At the time, like you said, you promised your wife gold, but it was mud beneath her feet, and I could relate to that. And that's a big thing in the entrepreneurship world, especially when you're married and you trying to get going in your business and no money coming in, and diapers got to be bought, the light bill had to be paid. You don't know where the next meal coming from. You don't know how to pay the water bill, the rent. You're getting the notices saying they're about to come repossess your car. But how did those challenges and struggles shape you into the person that you are today?
Well, and I know it sounds like you've had some insight into what that means. And look, there's the whole thing of struggle to success, to significance, to legacy. And I'm in sort of that significance to legacy phase of my life right now. And so I'm blessed in the sense that I'm able to do things in ways that I would have never fathomed 32 years ago. But in that sense, if you're in that season of struggle, you mentioned entrepreneurialism. To me, an entrepreneur is someone that recognizes and realizes the risk, but then sees the opportunity. And you can never mitigate risk, but you can minimize it. So it doesn't mean if you're an entrepreneur, you're foolhardy, you're going to run with the wind, but you do have to see something that other people don't see. And so when you see something other people don't see, and you try something other people haven't tried, or that most people wouldn't try, it sets you up because the barriers of entry are usually the months without income that's recurring, especially if you're on straight commission, which I was at a few points in my life. But what it was based on was trying to do something big and having those seasons of what we'll call for the moment failure. But those failures were really just like some people say, and the cliches get old, but they're real. Everything that you go through, especially if it does end up not working out the way you'd hope, failure, is a lesson and a blessing. And then you've got to figure out that a lot of the blessing doesn't happen to you until you go hindsight. When you look in the rearview mirror, I'm like, oh, I know why everything that happened to me happened. But for most people, it turns them back. They go right back to what status quo. They go back to their comfort zone. The amygdala in the mind, I know he's a philosophy major that we just met with. It regulates your action because it tells the brain wants to keep you safe. But if you're an entrepreneur, if you're looking for a change of the way you work, let's say you're coming into insurance and you can hear there's gold in these hills, and there is, but you're not willing to withstand the struggle season, the weakest people don't make it. The strongest people endure. And then ultimately, through endurance and persistence, promotion, opportunity, and growth to you, as you mentioned, the 7-figure business is what happens.
So you wrote a book that kind of talks about that story called Sales Crimes. That's another book, by the way, especially if you're getting into the insurance business. And even if you're an entrepreneur, I highly recommend that book if you just getting into entrepreneurship. You wrote a book called Sales Crimes. I have it at my office, in my book library there, where you talked about a journey of an individual who started out having a job, got into the insurance business, young family, and just seeking some guides and some mentorship along the way. Couple of things that you talked about, was some of your experiences help you kind of shape the narrative of that book?
Oh, so it's autobiographical in a lot of ways. Now, it was based on my father-in-law, Leroy Shuffler, who in his own right, having come from Guyana, moving to the States in the 70s, which was culture shock for both sides. That's how I met my wife. They had come from Guyana, and I'd met her in 1979, actually, when I was in 10th grade. So we've known each other a really long time, beyond the 39 years of marriage. And I embodied the mentor with him because it became this sort of older, venerable man that's been through a lot, but wanted to give back, but nobody recognized his greatness because in some cases, in most cultures, older people are marginalized or they're put into a corner. But Matthew, who needed his help really badly, just out of almost desperation, approached him and said, would you help me? Because I'm struggling. He'd up burning through the money that he'd saved. They were only paying a small amount every week to keep him going. It's like what I'd gotten a job. All they gave us was $200 a week and $20 in gas money. And you just had to make it work. But in that sense, what ultimately from the story narrative, he had 20 lunches with him and basically transferred knowledge and wisdom. That happened for me. As a matter of fact, at Medicare, and I won't do names here, but someone that saw something in me when I was an agent at United Healthcare, and we would literally walk across the street to the IHOP. I gained a lot of weight back then, and he just imparted knowledge. He lifted the hood on the technical elements of Medicare and healthcare. And then the sales side of it, I'd already kind of naturally knew because I loved service. And that's at the end of the day, all sales is a form of service. And I believe Muhammad Ali's the one that said service is the rent you pay for your place and time here on earth. So that story, I'm both Leroy and Matthew, but I and my life is woven all through it.
Excellent, excellent. So let's talk about mentorship, because you said that was a big pivotal part in your career, and it's a big part of mine. Like I say, your mentorship in this book has put us on track to be $1 million agency. We missed it by a little bit, but we gonna get it. But let's talk about the importance of that, because as an entrepreneur and someone that's coming into business, one of the keys to success is mentorship. I'm a strong advocate of mentorship, and I'm a strong advocate of giving back. So how do you see yourself when someone calls you a mentor? Because I know that's not a title that we walk around and say I'm a mentor. That's usually, I believe that is a title you earn. That's not a title you walk around and say I'm a mentor. I'm a mentor. That's a title that is earned. So talk a little bit about the importance of mentorship.
Well, and that'll maybe let me weave in the story of how we met and that
Yes.
earning of becoming a mentor and a mentee. It takes both sides to understand that they have a role to play. Now, there's things around the way the world is shaped today, and this is not about the better generation is my generation. I was born in 64, the baby boomers, the last wave of it, and the X and the Y and all of those things. But because of the way information gets presented today, a lot of folks, number one, want instant. Number two, a lot of folks aren't willing to be, I would say the word humble, but willing to receive as a mentee the fact that someone knows something they don't know or wouldn't have access to. I mean, there's YouTube University. I love it. I go to it a lot. But there's nothing like the human interaction relative to a mentor and a mentee. So there's always been this, I won't say obligation, but this internal innate pull for me to help people because I can always get in touch with the man that struggled. I can always touch that vein, and I could probably break down and cry on you right here because I know what that process was. And somebody, and there's been several in my life, I've been a CEO of 3 different companies, all that turned into very big opportunities that saw something in me that transcended even age, race, history, and background. And so I know that excellence is what will be transcendent in any environment. So when I think about mentors and mentee, it's really about that innate pull to help other people do what happened for me because someone did it for me. And then that's elevated. But yes, I'd say at this stage, it's the African proverb. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go far, you've got to connect and network. And, John C. Maxwell talks about a lot of people network. Everybody networks. We're going to Medicarians in a couple of weeks. I've already gotten DMs and instant connects and there'll be pitches and that part's fine. But it really is about, can you connect? And with the amount of people within the industry that I know, those connections then turn into the teaming that turns into opportunity, which then says when there's a mentor-mentee relationship, hey, Ortez, something's going on over here. Come in and support us and join in. And here's how we'll all benefit, rising tide lifting all ships. I'll come back, but I want to leave you a chance to say some things there. But I want to come back to how we met and how that mentorship evolved. But that's what I believe is that everyone needs someone important in their life that will help lead and guide them.
Right. I agree. So you kind of talked about the mentee and the mentor relationship. I want to talk about, you have a lot of insurance agents as well as entrepreneurs that are still kind of stuck with, I would say, the hustle mode. Or in our industry, we would say the producer mode, just out there grinding every day. And I'm a firm believer that we all start out hustling. I tell people I start out hustling insurance, just trying to figure it out, just trying to make a sale, out there. I came from the school of hard knocks, get 100 business cards. Anybody come within you within 3 feet, you give them your card and you introduce yourself. That was long before it wasn't no cell phones, emails really wasn't relevant, wasn't no social media for sure. I was still, I still would have to write down the directions to get to people's house. Had to keep a pocket full of quarters to pull over and call on when I got lost, to call on on the phone. So I came from that era. And so it was tough, but I'm grateful for that era because it shaped me who I am today. But I see with all the vast technology and everything that's going on, I still see a lot of agents still kind of stuck, and entrepreneurs stuck in that hustle mode where really you need to be transitioned to more of a business role, because there's a difference between hustling a business, hustling, I should say, and being a business owner. And a lot of agents struggled from that in our world because they don't want to get into recruiting maybe. They don't want to get into the obligations that come with it. So, I just kind of want you to talk about that because I see it's a more need for that, particularly among African American insurance agents, to really transition from that producer mode to becoming agency owners, because I believe that's the power. The more agency owners we have, the more power we have, and we can make more demands. So, talk a little bit about that and how can that transition happen so we can see more of that.
So a lot to unpack there, but I got it. And I want to do it in sort of 3 segments. And then I even want to come back to the recruiting. I saw a post that you did maybe just a couple of days ago. I do troll you on LinkedIn. So if we come back to the individual, there is, as I like to say, a progression. And even in the sense of Medicare, very specifically, first you're an order taker, then you're a professional, then you're an advocate. And at the point where you're an advocate, you should have raving fans, people that won't do anything without you and consulting. So, but in the beginning and in that hustle mode, which some people get locked into, and that goes back to the amygdala, the comfort zone, and the things that just feel like I've struggled to earn. And there's, one of my statements here is, as I serve, I deserve. So I should be able to grow my business. And it should be, number one, view what you do as a business. It is a business. But in the beginning, there is an effort phase, which the 3-foot rule, the Project 100, doing all these things that you have to do to start building some inertia. And then I'll break it down again with all my little acronyms and other things. But there's a moment where something flashes and the inspiration says, I should be in this business. Then there's the movement, you get licensed and get going. Then there's momentum, which are the things we're describing, the effort phase, where you can't help but have to see 100 people, or because your close and conversions aren't very good because you don't have the skill yet. But then when you go from effort to skill, you should transition from order taker, professional, advocate to cultivator. You shouldn't be having to hustle anymore. And I started with final expense agents, much like yourself, who were porch hopping, door knocking warriors. They were always on the move, always kinetic like a shark. If you stop swimming, you died, literally. But when you get to the cultivation stage, then you have to get to the replication stage, which means now I have people that I'm responsible for that are looking for this business to give them the same matriculation, the same maturation cycle to go from order taker to cultivator to then reproducing your levels of success. And the main thing there, as we go back to mentorship, that's where the tie-in comes in, is you're stuck because you don't have the right approach to break out of that stasis, to break out of that struggle, to break out of that grind mode. And we've put a certain amount of glamour on grinding. And grinding to me means persistence, discipline, routine, regimen, to the point where whatever it is I'm doing, the compound effect will elevate me out of whatever it is I'm struggling with or dealing with until I break free. And it's Zig Ziglar, there's no traffic jams on the extra mile. It's Earl Nightingale, the greatest secret, that if I put 100 people in a room, 95 are just never going to be, 4 are going to do well, but there's going to be the one breakout. The one breakout finds a mentor. The one breakout gets the one ingredient that's missing to catch them to the next level. And that's when, as I mentioned, moment, movement, momentum, when you get all those things to converge, magic. And then things accelerate. And that's what's happened to me, because I've been, again, I'll say the word humble enough, modest enough to know when I walk into a room, am I coming to contribute? I hope, always. Am I coming to listen and learn? Am I coming to be the person that guides and orchestrates and facilitates? But if you can know that if you go into a room and you have to be the silent one because you don't have anything to contribute for a season, just to be in the room is the blessing. And that's where I learned a lot, is when I was in trying to find the 6-figure room, and then trying to find the 7-figure, when it was time to find the 9 and the 10-figure room, of which I have found, there were seasons where I didn't get to say a word. Because you got to step back and assess that I'm here, but it's not my turn to contribute yet, but when my turn comes, be ready.
Mm.
And I know I went a long way there, but I think you're absolutely right. But to getting unstuck, the key is the one ingredient, and the one ingredient is likely going to come from someone that will see something in you that you have to also be mentorable, and then things can escalate.
Powerful. So I want to go back because you said that you want to talk about how we met, right? And you probably didn't know it, but during that time, I was going through some serious challenges in my business, serious challenges economically. And sometimes, as you say, God got to send you somebody. God sent, right? And first time I met you, we ate. I just kind of listened to you, and I told Sam,
And I think I picked up the bill.
Yeah, you picked up the bill too.
Our little spot there in
but we
Trinidad.
kind of, a little spot right up the street there. But I just kind of walked away. It was like, And then a couple of months later, probably about a year later, Sam, bought me this book here, and I'm hold up this book, and Sam know me. Sam know I'm a reader. I'm not one, you could just call and give a bunch of hype. I tell people that all the time. You got to get to know me. I'm not recruitable. I'm not the type that's recruitable. I believe in building relationships first, and we'll probably talk about that on another episode. People just jump in my DMs all the time and say, are you interested in an opportunity? I'm like, you don't even know me. Can you find out something about me first? So he gave me this book, and I'm an adamant reader, and I read through the book, and I'm big on systems. And that's when I said, I'm ready to have another conversation. So talk about that, because, that's how we met. And like I said, during that time, I was going through some challenges, trying to figure out what direction to take the business in. We were struggling. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, see, now I didn't know about the struggle piece.
Yeah.
But let's frame that in the bigger narrative that, 39 years of marriage. And I used to tell my wife all the time, we're not trying to keep anything secret, but we're trying to keep things sacred, which means that if we have things that are happening within the house, and it was all financial, the world shouldn't see that. So when I met you, all I saw was high vibratory energy that at that moment, I come in all excited about what I have to show you, thinking that because I knew Sam from 2007 and a company that was the first chronic illness special needs plan, and Sam got involved in it, and I just gotten to know him a little bit and then a little more over time, not knowing that you were connected to him. But so kudos to you for, again, keeping that level of high vibratory thought, even if things were not going 100% well, but the seed got planted. And even under the circumstances of how we were introduced and how we met may not have been totally perfect for you to receive me in a way that would have just made it a quick laydown, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then, I think about, there's a song, Dietrich Haddon's gospel singer, and he says, God didn't give up on me. And I just recently reconnected to a young man that went a little wayward, but now has built amazing businesses, sold them for a large multi-million-dollar amount. But the song is called God Didn't Give Up on Me. And so for me, when you call me back, I'm like, it could have been, if I'd let ego get in the way, I would have said, he dismissed me that first time. I ain't going back. But what I realized is that you and I are both systems people. James Clear, and I know I do a lot of quoting here, but I just believe in attribution. James Clear in the book Atomic Habits says you don't rise to the level of your goals, what you want, you fall to the level of the system you create. But we reconnected, and then as I knew you had been enlightened by the book, I'm like, okay. Because at that time, I was still trying to give what I'll call a proof of concept. This book sat on a shelf for 5 years before the first fairly large group and agency allowed me to indoctrinate their agents with this approach of final expense, Medicare, Med Advantage, MedSup, hospital indemnity, ancillary products, cancer, heart, stroke. And then as things evolve, people sometimes get into wealth management. So for 5 years, I didn't have anyone that would even allow me to get in front of their agents, because if they were selling final expense only, don't poison them with the Medicare. If they were selling Medicare only, they don't know how to ask for a check. They're never going to be able to sell final expense. But one day, another epiphany happened to me. I showed it to one more person. And that person now is the chief distribution officer for AmeriLife. And I know there's a name connected to that. Mm-hmm. he gave me access to thousands of agents, you being one. And so, because I had gotten renewed, resurrected, and reinvigorated around the concept, if you call me back, because I had people stiff arming, I thrown out of a couple of places, all kind of things. But what happened after that is my affinity and respect for you grew. And I always tell people that trust, and now trust is a word people throw around a lot. So credibility is one thing, trust is another. And I tell people trust is where time gets multiplied by trouble, which means you either have to know me long enough to know that I am who I say I am, that there is no what I'll call ulterior motive, or the time can be short, but we've gone through a lot of trouble and you see how I act under duress if you say no to me, if you don't embrace the ideas immediately. But when we then reconnected and I saw that you got it, and then watched what you've done, to your point, over the years, because we've not done anything relative to business and alignment and hierarchical. This was all simply about ideas exchanging to give back so that, yes, all people have chances for success. And even as you mentioned, African Americans specifically, certainly there's some disproportion there, obvious to the scale of agencies within this space, but there is no barrier and no hindrance.
That's right.
It's just, can you connect and partner in a way and take good information and leverage it, which kudos to you, because you took it and ran with it. And I think better than most embodied the concepts here versus just piecemealing and taking out sections.
Yes. Definitely embrace the whole concept. So, and I want to talk about today, because in the industry now, due to the Medicare shakeup, kind of lead me into that. So great segue there. The industry is coming to this system. And me and Sam, we laugh all the time. And Rosetta, and I say, Brandon been talking about this. I mean, man, you had to have foresight, because now only thing I hear now is, Medicare, cross-sell, final expense, indemnity, especially the indemnity. I mean, that message is loud and clear. And so, I'm hearing that now. Due to the shakeup in the Medicare space, cross-selling. And we call it the BrandonClay system at ORS Financial Group. That's what we call it. Me, Sam, and Rosette, we call it the BrandonClay system. And we say, only thing they talk about is the BrandonClay system, a system that we adopted when most people were either all Medicare or either it was all final expense, as you said. They either did one line of business, they didn't do the other, they didn't do too much cross-selling. But now we hear that. And so talk a little bit about that, how the industry is kind of changing toward that, because like you said, you have been trying to promote that concept and was getting kicked out of doors, getting rejected. People didn't want to hear it, but talk about that now and how you see that moving forward.
Wow. So number one, great point. And we talked about entrepreneurialism, sort of seeing something before others see it, and then you take the tangible steps to do it. The XL Health was the company that I was with, that was the first chronic illness and some of the first dual special needs plan, where I met Sam. Sold to United Healthcare. I had a 2-year cooling off. I wrote this book, and that was a great, I wrote this book shortly after, because I realized that agents weren't thinking about the environment in a holistic, complete way that would maximize the opportunity. They were, in many cases, to your earlier point, one-trick pony, selling one thing and hoping that one thing would carry them into their next level of opportunity. What's happening? Well, I'll back up a little bit. So even in the original design of technology within our space, and this is the enrollment platforms, the Sunfires, the Connect Your DRX, very few agents were submitting apps that way. As a matter of fact, carriers were giving incentives for agents to send in electronic. But then COVID happened, and then we couldn't get into the houses. And there was a mandated compulsory adoption of those types of technologies. And so today an agent will say, I couldn't live without my quoting and enrollment tool. But then just 5-6 years ago, no one used them, and they were still there. So in the framework now, as the regulatory environment changes, as the election environment changes, as in SEP, OEP, AEP, The constriction is coming back to where, and I used to say it all the time, that did you make enough money in the AEP and the OEP to pay your RENT for the rest of the year? Because at the time the SEP had gone away, so you had to almost front load all your money into that 6-month window.
Right.
But then we opened the doors back up and everybody could move a lot of duels around, and it just became a bit of it became chaotic. And so some of what's been done is right. But to the point you made, there's a bit of a back to systems, back to fundamentals, where agencies, call centers that left all of their hope on being able to just keep playing musical chairs with those same 2, 3, 4 million people now have to have other sources of revenue to operate. So it has come back to final expense, simplified issue life, ancillary products, ACA, even though, again, it has some seasonality baked in as well. So for me, for the digital agent, there's two things now they've got to embrace: product diversity and virtual / digital / hybrid selling, where you may spend part of your time in the field face to face, but then you've got to be able to expand your geography by embracing technology. But you're absolutely right. The marketplace now says, out of compulsion, out of necessity. April 1 started that necessity.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have as many people to go talk to that can move now. We've got to do other things.
So let's talk about technology. Since you you real good at giving me my next segment here. So let's talk about technology and currently your role, because you're working with a technology firm or spearheading, leading and guiding that company. So let's talk about your current role now and the future of the industry as relates to technology. Because in the insurance world, we kind of slow to technology. But let's talk a little bit about that, your current role and where you see the future of this industry.
So there's inflection points and moments where opportunity gets created and waves of opportunity flow through. So part of it is the growth of the Medicare population. Again, I'm a baby boomer. In another 4 years, I'll be able to get on Medicare and don't nobody call me. I'm going to self-enroll, or I may let Ortez do it. Who knows? But there's an age wave, which means numbers of people. I think that mythical 10,000 is going to turn to 12, 5, 13. Who knows what the number will end up being on a daily basis. And then 55, 60% of those people are choosing Medicare Advantage for different reasons. But even as the benefits capitulate, it's still such a wave of opportunity. That has always been there in some form, shape, or degree. But what I said to your group at the AEP kickoff this past season was, this is a unique moment because technology, and it's a fancy word, but it's democratizing the opportunity. Technology, so I know you're big into technology. So when I think about it, not to buzzword it here, but AI, I always say it's an accelerator of intelligence. And artificial, I think, is the word that throws people off. I am seeing how that technology is being used on my platform in adjacent environments where things that may transpire with CMS. I mean, don't even talk about agentic agents that can actually hold a conversation and sound just as Southern drawled and natural as I do to you right now. But in that democratization, you've got to adapt it or adapt to it and adopt it, or else in an accelerated fashion, you will get left behind. It's just that simple. So when I think about what the technology does, and we'll come to EnrollHere, not to make it as a promotional, but when I think about technology broadly, agents and a democratization, it means that no matter where you are socioeconomic, and there's a bit of race, gender, age, all built into that, in this defining moment, you now have access to the same acceleration as if you were a big corporation. I'm looking at what you've set up here. I'm looking at how you got us kicked off, and professional, laid out, but technology has evolved to the point where you could do this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's workflow and it's workforce. Workflow means how I work, how fast can I work? Can I get other things to do other things for me, whether it's a true virtual assistant or a real live assistant, or whether it's technology that does a lot of things in automation in the background. But from a workforce, it makes me, as a single producer, a single cultivator, if I evolve, I can now use technology to do the work of if I had a staff of 5. And that now is available to everyone. And so the embracing, adapting, and adopting is going to be key at each stage of it. So at an agency owner level, and I'll stop for this with you, what I've been, again, struck by, even with that meeting this back in October or September, is you've already embraced and put together foundational technology, but now you can lead the horse to water, but can you make them drink?
Yeah,
and in the field of dreams, I've got the field ready. Players, come on.
Yeah.
But I want to continue to grind.
Right.
I want to continue to do it the way that I've always done it, and we ain't going to change because I don't want to change. Okay? And as my grandfather, Leroy Shuffler, used to say, you can either transform or die professionally. And that's coming.
That's coming. Yes, sir.
And it's not going to slow down.
Yes, sir.
Not going to.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So before we kind of wrapped up here, you mentioned EnrollHere. Tell us a little bit about your role and a little bit about EnrollHere.
So EnrollHere. So, Tyler Reese, who founded IFG, and many people may know that name, and was actually bought by Humana a few years ago. And I'd known him sort of back during the One Life era, and we'd gotten to know each other. He originally brought me in as CEO, which was the moment I saw the platform almost 2 years ago. I said, oh my goodness, Tyler, if that does what it looks like it will do, and it was in its first phase and stage, I said, you're about to transform this industry in a way that it needs, but I don't know if it expects to see that this is coming. So I got involved, and I was CEO for the first year, and I've now transitioned to Chief Brand and Industry Officer. Tyler's come back in as CEO, and he's brilliant. He's a visionary. He thinks big. But with that egoless, sort of self-aware environment, each person on the team does what they do better and best, and it's the highest and best use proposition, each according to their gifts. But from a technology platform standpoint, I'll do it simple because I want to let the agents who are individuals, agencies at every level of size, what we have built is a marketplace that provides lead flow of high intent inbound consumer leads. We then create a easy to use environment that then allows the agent to, if they half the day they want to plug in, those calls come flowing through. It has dynamic scripting where if they're uncomfortable with the phone, it'll give them training wheels. The calls that you can route to your agents can flow by way of geography, how many calls you want them to have, how much cost per acquisition you want those calls to have. You have all the levers and controls to manage your business effectively and efficiently. But then in the back end of it, it actually then listens to the call, AI, transcripts it, and tells the agent, hey, if you were nervous about compliance and the criteria that Medicare has in terms of calibration, this is how you scored on that last call. But we've even got it built now to where if they're still a little nervous, they're looking at compliance, but then they're wondering, why didn't I sell that? When you can go into EH Mentor, and it will actually take that call and tell you areas where you could have said something differently and coach you to a better performance, and even allow you to do it in a role play, which most people hate. Agents hate role play, but that's the thing that sharpens the tool.
So, yeah.
It actually will allow you to do that with seniors that have a certain profile. I want to talk to someone that's in a dual environment, someone that's chronic illness, and it will literally help coach. So back to workflow and workforce management. And then for agencies, and I'm going deep into the product set here, it's commissions and policy management, because it's all for naught in two ways. If you don't get paid right, which unfortunately there's a lot of missing payments.
Yeah.
And then more importantly, if you don't retain the member.
Yeah.
So,
probably could have hit that $1 million. Probably could have uncovered some money that I should have been getting.
Exactly. So the technology, even though I laid out a broad brush there, is really to help you simplify your business, optimize your business, and grow your business. That's the tagline. But it has been a meteor, a rocket ship in terms of how fast we've grown. Pushing now probably well over 20,000 users. So back to democratization, early adoption and adaption. I know you were very early because I called you and I said, I got to show you this. And you just got it. You brought in other tools. I know I won't call names on the technology. Certainly you can, but automation that allow people from a workflow management to grow their book while systems and technology manage their book, cultivate their lead opportunities. If you're not adopting and adapting some of these things that can accelerate your growth. So back in the six, I know we got to wrap in the 6 hour, 6 figures. I said, if you could become a 6-figure renewal agent in 12, 18, 24 months, and I've got now hundreds to thousands of testimonials of agents who've embraced and done this. I would say now that if, like the young man we just met, if he embraced everything you have put in front of him, embraces concepts and becomes that digital agent, which I think with his age, he'd likely just embrace without resistance, it would take him half the time to get to a 6-figure renewal.
Half the time for sure that it took me with everything in. So in closing, where is BrandonClay the next 10 years? And then where the people can find you at?
So, and I told you, and I love how you put things together. I got to learn from you. You may have to become my mentor for social media. I'm really just LinkedIn, but the next 10 years, obviously I want to help EnrollHere accelerate and continue to accelerate its growth. But I am in that now transitional season from significance to legacy. And it is beyond even what, you and I've done together is to, you can't be it for thousands and do it with quality. There's tools you can put available. So like for me, these are my wide net tools, but the more focused would be to engage with 3 to 5 people that I highly respect and help them navigate and get their businesses to grow so that there's a true legacy component, and play East Lake a lot more and play a lot of golf. Ortez, I've got 8 grandkids. My 3 kids are all married. And obviously with my wife, we travel a lot now, but to do the things that just keep making life joyful, but also impactful. And, I don't look at time in the relative sense anymore, because at 61, you stop thinking about it in that vein. But no sense of immortality, but it is really just to embrace, enjoy, and because life is fragile, life is precious. And in a moment, anything could change.
Well, man, I appreciate you, man, for stopping by to share with us some words of wisdom. In fact, you my first interview.
How fitting. I appreciate that.
So hopefully you all, I done well. Y'all let me know in the comments how I did. Let me know in the comments what you thought about Mr. BrandonClay here, man. Truly a mentor of mine. Like I said, man, I appreciate you always come through for me. So I truly appreciate you. So that will wrap up this episode. This is Ortez with Insure Your Success. Make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, and tell somebody about the podcast. Until next time, I see you on the next video or podcast.